During this time of year, many people struggle with anxiety and fear and seasonal depression. Joining me today is Stan Popovich. He is the author of A Layman's Guide to Managing Fear. Hi, Stan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. And so let's start off by sharing a little bit of your background and journey, because I understand that you have experienced anxiety and fear for a very long time in your life, but you wanted to do something about it to provide a guide. Please share more.
Yes, when I started college at Penn State in 1990, I struggled with fear and anxiety almost every day. And I was having trouble getting through my classes and just getting through each day. And eventually I realized that I had a problem and I needed to talk to somebody. So I talked to a counselor to get some additional advice on how to get through each day to manage my anxieties. I did this for about 20 years. Over time, I got a lot of advice and techniques that helped me get through each day. And then one day I realized I could put all my techniques into a small notebook. And eventually I got my book published entitled A Layman's Guide to Managing Fear. I then created a website, managingfear.com, where I talk about my book. And I also provide a lot of free advice on how to deal with your mental health issues during your life.
Yes, yes. And I understand through your story that throughout your journey, you had experienced so many self-help guides, books that you've read, therapists. I mean, you really poured money into trying to find a solution. And part of you creating this guide and website for others is just the fact that the real applicable tips weren't available. But now on your website, you provide them at a free, at no cost. It's for free on your website, which is wonderful. So can you share with us a few really important tips for those who are experiencing seasonal depression at the time?
Yeah. First, I talked to many different counselors, and when you talk to four or five different counselors, you get four or five different answers. And when I read a
Yes.
lot of books, a lot of the information was hard to find. I had to do a lot of reading and research. So I kind of put all that stuff together and went through and used each technique that was had the most impact in my life, and I include that on my website, which is free, and also in my book. As for techniques, the first thing you need to realize is that you admit that you have a problem dealing with fear and anxiety. Once you realize that you have a problem, the next step is to talk to a professional counselor. They can give you additional insights and advice on how to deal with your situation. In terms of specific techniques, take it one day at a time. Try to pace yourself. Don't try to do things all at once. Like try to break things down into different tasks,
Mm-hmm.
which will reduce your anxieties. Self visualization. When an incoming event comes up, you can try to practice doing that event in your mind so that when it comes,
Oh.
you're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Another technique, as I call the 99% rule,
Mm-hmm.
that you really can't predict the future because when you worry a lot, you feel like, well, I can predict the future, but usually you can't predict it accurately. And there's always situations and circumstances that can change your situation, and also
Yes.
not to give up and to keep trying and dealing with your fears and anxieties. And there's a ton of other information that I provide on my website for free.
Yes, that's great. And you make such a great point. I mean, part of anxiety is fearing what hasn't happened yet. And so that whole method or concept rather of predicting the future. So I love that you gave tips just saying, hey, it may not happen the way that you have played it out in your head. So if you're going to do all that work of making up a story, make it be a positive one and walk into a situation with confidence. That's really great. And can you share with me more? So I know your website is quite extensive when it comes to the different topics and blogs and articles that people can read. Can you share with me some other areas of your site and information that you provide?
Basically, I have a section like a blog, an article section where I have about 70 articles with different topics. I also go over my book and how my book can help you. A Layman's Guide to Managing Fear. There's an order page where you can order my book on my website. There's information about my background on how I can help other people, and I also have a list of my interviews and publications that published my advice because I write a lot of articles for magazines and newspapers around the United States, and a lot of them have been published, and I have a list of those on my website too.
Yes. Okay, that's wonderful. And throughout your journey, Stan, and utilizing these tips, how do you feel now as opposed to back when you were in college?
I feel a little bit better, but I also realize that this is something I'm going to struggle with the rest of my life. So
Mm,
this is what motivated me to learn as much as I can, because the more you learn, the easier it becomes. One of the best things is to learn from your experiences. When you're dealing with through an anxious situation, try to figure out what did I do the last time to get over it, and then try to apply those techniques in the future. I do that a lot, and some days are harder than others. I still struggle.
yes.
I'm never going to be out of the woods, but I feel a lot better than I did when I first started.
Yes, I love that. That is so great. Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey and sharing about the tools that you are providing for anyone who needs to access them. So thank you. If you would like to find out more information about Stan and order his book, you can go to managingfear.com. And we'll be right back.